oftentimes people see these successful folks and they go, oh yeah, but his dad's wealthy, or he grew up in this city so he knows these people. And they don't realize that there were millions of people that grew up in that city. There were thousands of people that had billionaire rich fathers that didn't do anything. Like, a lot of this is 100% created. What's up, everybody? Today I've got a really fun topic, which is the argument that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You've probably heard this before, but I'm going to double click on this at a level you've definitely never heard of before, because I believe you become your community and proximity is power, okay? And if you've ever come from a place where you are working, maybe this is you today, and you've just been heads down, and you don't have any friends that understand what you're going through, you feel like a lone wolf, you're working 16 hours a day, and you just feel like you're yourself and nobody gets you, and the people that see you, they tell you, why do you work so much, and they don't get it, and it's losing its appeal. That's the other part, is you're doing this and it feels frustrating, okay? I want to show you how to get to a place where the work and your community energize you. You thrive in that. It is the fuel that pushes you to think even bigger, and it feels almost effortless. Once you discover this, it feels like a cheat mode. And just for those that are maybe new to my stuff, I, have the privilege, okay, and it is the privilege of working with the best entrepreneurs in the world. As a business coach, as business partners, I'm a co-investor in a company called Pila. I sit on the board of that company. If you search it, Jay-Z was an investor in that company. I invested at the same time as him and his partners. And I've co-invested with literally all the top angel investors in San Francisco. Again, I don't want to say any of this to brag. I just want to share this to give you context for the personal network I have, where I'm able to text, the books on my bookshelf. A lot of them are personal friends of mine, where I've been working on my new book and I've been texting them, asking them for advice, getting on calls, understanding stuff, reviewing things. When I go on vacation, I do this trip every year. There's 48 entrepreneurs that come on it. It's a ski trip. Been doing it for 8 years. I mean, there's people on that come on that trip that are on TV, on shows like Shark Tank and Canada Dragon's Den, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I feel weird saying this as a Canadian because it's weird to brag. But I want to really give you a sense of the opportunity ahead of you if you double click on this and you invest in this, okay? I learned a long time ago, the first book I ever read was called Love is a Killer App by a guy named Tim Sanders. And he argued your network is your net worth. And I underappreciated what he truly meant at that time. I was 23 when I read that book. And it is everything for me. And I went through a couple failed startups until finally in my 3rd company, late night, okay, I'm looking at my numbers, I'm looking at my bank account, and I didn't have enough money to make payroll. And out of desperation, I cold email the former premier of the province I'm from in Canada. It's like our governor, this guy named Frank McKenna. And this is around Christmas time. It was probably the 27th of December, because it was after Christmas. My birthday just happened on the 26th. New Year's was coming up, and it was just this super heavy time in my life. And Frank replied. And he gave me 3 names of people that he thought could help me out, right? That had been in software from the province that he respected. And those people became my mentors. And it was hard. It was uncomfortable. I don't know if you've ever had somebody, respond to a cold email that you wanted to meet and they say yes, and then you got to go meet with them. I remember I was so nervous. I was worried that maybe they would think everything I'm doing was stupid, or maybe they would give me 3 minutes and then tell me they're busy, or maybe they wouldn't even show up for the meeting. I mean, every possible scenario I went through in my head, right? And, but even at that point, I had read another book called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, right? And, Keith made this argument about just showing up and being curious and figuring out how to build relationships, and asking questions has really become one of my superpowers. Leaning in and being curious in other people is what anybody would love. And literally the 3 people that Frank McKenna introduced me to became my mentors and were the reason I got out of that tough point and eventually sold the company 2 years later. And I want to share the lessons learned around the average of the 5 people that you haven't heard from other people, right? So number 1 is you got to push past the filter. If you're reaching out to people that are the top of their game in their industry, you need to understand that everybody's reaching out to that person. Everybody's asking for their time. Offering to buy them coffee is not going to get it done, right? And I remember one of the guys, this gentleman named Steve Palmer. He was the COO of the top software company in our city at the time. And I used Jerry's name, or sorry, not Jerry's name, Frank's name. And I reached out to him and I said, like, you know, Frank gave me your name. Here's who I am. And this is just good advice. If you're ever reaching out to a potential mentor, be open about your situation. The amount of time that people like try to play a big game, it's so weird to me. It's like you're asking me for advice, but you're telling me how everything's great. Like if you just come off and say, oh, everything's great, all is awesome, but I just want to meet with you, that doesn't make sense. So I reached out to Steve and I just said, here's my situation. We did 1.6 million in revenue. We're about to run out of cash. My team size, I just gave him all the data at the time. And he offered to meet with me. And he said, I'll meet you at 7 a.m. on Mountain Road in my hometown at a place called Tim Hortons. All the Canadians know Tim Hortons. Maybe the Americans do too. But I met with them, suit and tie, right? I'm 26 at the time. And he shows up, you know, kind of sweater, Sunday morning, and we have our meeting. We talk for an hour. And I just ask him all these questions. He asked me a bunch of questions. And it was at the end that I asked him, I said, Steve, obviously I appreciate your time, but I'm just curious, like, why would you want to meet with me on a Sunday morning at 7 a.m.? Like, don't you have a family? Aren't you busy with other things? Like, couldn't we have done this during the week? And he goes, we could have, but I wanted to see how serious you were. And I use this all the time for people. And oftentimes they say, hey, is it okay if we meet on Wednesday? And I just politely reply and say, unfortunately, I'm not available. And he says it's a test. It's a filter that he uses. And I love that. Okay, I've used that. I continue to use that. My version is a Tuesday morning hike that we do in town. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to do the hike. You got to push past the filter. If you want to build a network of people that are on a different level, that are thinking on a different level, that are going to inspire you, that are creating things that you aspire to, like they will create a filter for anybody that's not serious, that want to operate at that level, and you got to push past it. The second thing is the philosophy that the community is created. You know, I think oftentimes people see these successful folks and they go, oh yeah, but his dad's wealthy, or yeah, but this person's that, or this person knows this person, or like, yeah, but he grew up in this city, so he knows these people. And they don't realize that there were millions of people that grew up in that city. There were, you know, thousands of people that had billionaire rich fathers that didn't do anything. Like, a lot of this is 100% created. Your community, the people, the peer group, that's a decision you got to make for yourself if you want to lean into it and create it. You know, and like every time, I remember when I moved back to New Brunswick from San Francisco, you know, we started to have kids. Renee was pregnant. We moved back, and after a year, I woke up realizing I didn't know anybody else in that town. Right? Like, I knew my brother, he was an entrepreneur. My best friend Nick was an entrepreneur, but I didn't know any other entrepreneurs in the whole town. And I spent 2 weeks creating a dinner where I hosted all these people. And it was scary. I was cold calling people. They were hanging up on me. Who are you? Dan Martell, do you build houses? No, that's my brother Pierre. They were like, what do you want? And I would like talk to them for 15 minutes. And I had to talk to probably 200 people to find 75 that were willing to take a chance on an unknown person to join them for a dinner, you know, a month into the future. And it was a lot of work, and I got it done. But I will tell you this, those 75 people became my community. They became my friends. They became the people I went on vacation with. They became the people I did play dates with. They became the people that I would call when I was having a hard time. Some of them became my clients. A lot of them did, right? Because they got to know me and they trusted me and they wanted to work with me. So like, to me, you know, and my buddy Jason Gaynard has this great podcast. It's called Community Made. And he shares this philosophy of like, you know, we are the byproducts of our community. But if you think you can just sit back and let it happen, it's not going to work. When I moved to Kelowna, moved the whole family here, okay? I didn't know, I knew a handful of people. But I decided to do the same thing that I teach all my clients that I'm recommending all you guys do now is I reached out into the community. I made a list of all the people that sat on the nonprofit boards. I made a list of the people who won the top 3 awards in all the different business categories for the last 15 years. I made a list of, I called friends of mine. I said, who are the top 3 people that you think are just the most fascinating and motivated and driven people in the city? And I made those lists and I reached out. And I invited them on a hike. I invited them to a founder's dinner. I invited them to an event. I invited them to meet up. Like, I built the community that I get to enjoy. I didn't sit back passively hoping through luck and circumstance I'm going to just meet somebody that's going to support me in moving my dreams forward, right? And I really believe that community is created. Number 3 is the idea that you got to give to get, So some of you guys are like, well, why would this person want to meet with me? Like, I'm just going to sit there and like waste their time and suck their knowledge. And it's it's an interesting mindset. I totally get it because I literally meet people all the time. They're like, well, why would this person respond to me? Why? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And the truth is you got to contribute. You got to give. Life supports those that support life. Contribution and growth. The more you grow, the more you got to give. So a lot of people think, well, I don't have a whole lot to add value to this person. And I say, well, how much are you growing? Have you ever thought of like what might be their challenges? Do you know anybody that could help them on that? Could you read a book on this? That's what Tim Sanders taught me in the book, Love is a Killer App. He said, like, you need to read books for your customers. You should read books for your mentors and then summarize it and teach them. Ask them, what are your top challenges right now that you're dealing with? And then try to figure out how you can solve that for them, right? And, just like even recently, I'm working on this whole part of my life that's around publishing, and I'm working on my book, and it's coming out. But I definitely will be a prolific author. I do want to take a lot of the things that I've shared on my YouTube channels that I've worked with hundreds of my coaching clients, and I want to crystallize it in a way that people can read and understand, because books have had an incredible impact on my life. And there's a mastermind with a guy named Jeff Walker that I wanted to be part of, that I heard it's an exclusive community that the only way to get in is you got to wait until somebody leaves. There's only 50 people, and it's application and interview, and there's no sales job at all. It's literally, it's invite only. And what was funny is when I finally got on a call with Jeff, who is the kindest person in the world, and I had known of him for a long time, he said to me right off the bat, I talked to this person, this person, this person. They back channeled. And in today's world, if you don't realize that people will back channel, they will find out where you work, they will go look at who worked there, and they'll see if they have mutual friends. They will open up your Facebook, they will look at mutual connections. They will go on LinkedIn, they'll do the same thing. How do I know this? Because I do the same thing. And luckily, because years and years of meeting people, adding value, meeting people, supporting them, contributing, giving willingly, not holding back, being somebody that just contributes, right? The more I grow, the more I got to give. So I kept focusing on growing, had more to give. That when I got on that call, Jeff's like, yeah, I talked to these 3 people and they all said the same thing. Sounds like you might be a fit for this program. I still had to interview, still had to wait. Luckily I got in, okay? And it's a real honor. I share that because you got to give to get. And if you don't realize that it is a karma thing, that if you can just sit back and just extract from everybody all the time, eventually the well is gonna end up dry. So I want to leave you with this idea, and Tony Robbins says this all the time, is proximity is power. Proximity is power. Being around other folks that are a few years ahead of you, 10 years ahead of you, that inspire you. It is one of the most potent drugs that I can think of. Like, I get inspired all the time by people that are thinking on certain aspects at a different level. Okay, get around people who inspire you. Get around people who will not accept your excuses. Get around people that will, when you call them and tell them that you just accomplished something big, that they cheer you on, they motivate you. There's no judgment. There's no tearing you down. There's no scarcity mindset showing up. They are literally going to be your biggest fans. Those are the people that will transform your life. And the cool part is it only takes one. If you're blessed to have 2, that's incredible. My mom said to me, she goes, if you can count on one hand your best friends, you've had an incredibly great life. And I got to be honest with you. If you talk to my wife, you talk to anybody that knows me, I have dozens of people I consider best friends. These are people that I trust. I share the most intimate parts of my life with. I I hope I add a lot of value to their lives, and I know they add a tremendous amount of value to my life, okay? And it's something that I think is one of the most important. It just makes the journey funner. So get around 5 people that inspire you, that push you. If that requires you moving cities, move cities. Is that, you know, there's a quote that says, if you're the smartest person on the street, find a new street. If it requires you to move a new street, move to a new street. Do that for yourself. Push the boundaries. People are watching and they want to see you succeed, but you got to put yourself in a position and in a place where that'll be easier and just more fun. Have an amazing day.